Well, some of you in our audience no doubt consider my next guest to be something of a god. Literally. Actor Tom Hiddleston is perhaps best known to North American audiences as the Norse deity and supervillain Loki in the box office hits Thor and the Avengers. But Tom Hiddleston is not actually a god. He's more akin to a chameleon. He inhabits the skin of characters from Shakespeare's Henry V to writer F. Scott Fitzgerald in Midnight in Paris. And while he's set to take the shape of Loki once again this fall in the sequel Thor: The Dark World, his most recent role is quieter, though equally supernatural. Tom Hiddleston portrays a vampire in Only Lovers Left Alive, the latest from celebrated New York director Jian Ghomeshi. But this vampire is no villain. He's Adam, a reclusive musician with suicidal thoughts holed up in the grand ruins of modern-day Detroit. The film co-stars Tilda Swinton, and Only Lovers Left Alive is a melancholy and romantic meditation on love, art, science, and life in general. The film is screening at the Toronto International Film Festival. But right now, I'm pleased to have Tom Hiddleston here with me in Studio Q. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for that incredible introduction. I don't know how I'm going to live up to it.
I'm just excited to see you with some color in your face.
Yeah.
I worry about you after seeing you in this film.
Yeah, he's the melancholy undead, I guess.
I was quite moved by this film, and I'm a Jarmusch fan, but vampires are everywhere in our culture these days. The ones in Only Lovers Left Alive are different. How would you describe these ones?
Well, the best way to describe it is when I met Jian Ghomeshi in November 2011, and we met and had a cup of tea on a blustery afternoon in New York, and I just finished shooting The Avengers. I was just about to start The Hollow Crown, which is these filmed adaptations of Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1, Part 2, and Henry V, and I was in town to do some promo work for Warhorse. So there was a sort of swirl of superheroes and soldiers and Shakespeare, and he sat me down, and I hadn't read a script. I had heard he wanted to meet me, and he said, "Okay, so I want to make a love story, and it's about a couple who are deeply sensitive and refined and sophisticated and poetic and delicate and endangered, and he's very dark, and she is sort of lighter. That they are the sun and the moon. They're yin and yang. Oh, by the way, they're vampires." So it was.
But the film isn't really about the supernatural. It's about very human ideals and problems. Why do you think he wanted vampires as the vehicle?
I think Jim truly wanted to make a film about love and art and music and literature, and the framework of being vampires is it gives him immortality to play with. It gives him the question, how would you spend your time if you were immortal?
Right. And if you'd lived through the generations of that culture.
Exactly. And how would that change your acceptance of your lover? How would it change your commitment? But also, the vampire has always been an emblem of passion, of romance, of kind of people living on the fringes. Tilda Swinton said something amazing recently. She said she thinks Jian Ghomeshi has been making vampire movies all his life. It's just they haven't had fangs and drank blood.
As a sidebar, Tom, I mean, Jim, I say I'm a fan of Jarmusch. He's something of an enigma himself, right? I mean, he's a director who seems so connected to music and what's interesting culturally, yet ultimately he seems a little elusive and poetic. What is it like to work with him? I have this sense of him as a taskmaster, as somebody who really knows what he wants. Is it that, or does he let you play with your own ideas of the character?
It's both those things. He has an incredible rigor to him, which just stems from his personal taste. But as a musician whose best friends are musicians, he knows that that sometimes you have to jam, and that the best riffs come out of the magic of the moment, and you can't plan it too much. So I found him incredibly open to. He had a screenplay which was happy with, and then and the first thing he said to me was, "I need your help. I need your input. I need Tilda's input. I need the input of Mia Wasikowska and Anton Yelchin and John Hurt." So there's a sort of mixture of this very auteur precision in his cinematic vision, and a musician's kind of freedom. You know, Adam is someone who's been rubbing shoulders with the greatest stringed musicians in human history. He gave an adagio to Schubert. He knows like Bach, and I always like to think that Adam taught Jimi Hendrix how to play. But at this point in his life, Adam he's played with form so much that actually he's trying to distill his music into very simple kind of drone electronic.
Yes.
So that actually he's become interested in music in a scientific molecular level. He wants to kind of study how the sound waves.
The character, though, is, I mean, he's, just to kind of pinpoint him for the audience who hasn't seen the film yet, he's a reclusive musician. He's compelled to create, but reluctant to let the world hear it. He's basically a tortured artist, and harkens to, he's got this Bowie, we talked about Bowie before we hit the air here, as I do often on the show, but he's got this sort of Bowie-like character about him, 70s Bowie, that would be. Did you model him after anyone in particular? Were you thinking of someone when you were inhabiting this character of Adam?
Well, Jim and I talked about Syd Barrett a lot. Right. Especially for the physicality of him, but also he had so many things. There was, Syd and Mick Jagger, especially early Jagger in Nick Roig's film Performance, where he lives in a dilapidated house in West London, kind of the bohemian lifestyle, and also Bowie. But there's a lot of Hamlet in there. John Hurt, who plays Christopher Marlowe, who in Jarmusch's world is still living as a vampire in Tangier, says about Adam, "I wish I'd known him before I wrote Hamlet. He would have made the perfect case study imaginable." So there's this Hamletian sadness and doubt in him, I think. And then after sort of feeding that into my own process in building the character, so much of Hamlet seemed to make sense for Adam. So many of those lines in the play.
He's basically a shut-in. He's an outsider.
Yeah.
He's certainly a...
he's romantic.
And he's romantic, but he's an introvert, and he's almost on screen for the entire film. How do you... Tell me about the challenge of playing an introvert in a compelling, extroverted way, if you will.
Sure. I guess the great thing is to be truthful. It was interesting, Jim, and the metaphor was a musical one. As actors, as people, we all contain multitudes. And some characters I play, they're the white keys, that's the major scale. And Adam is maybe some of my black keys, is my minor chord, It's a challenge to keep things in, because I guess I'm quite an extroverted person. But I just had to tap into his privateness and build his introversion into something fragile. He's someone he's endangered. Blood's hard to come by. Clean blood that isn't poisoned is hard to come by in this day and age. And he's disaffected and disillusioned with the progress of humanity. And so his depression, his introversion, is something that's been born out of being alive for 500 years and watching, in his mind, watching the human race poison itself.
But we're trying to get too processy about it, or to...
sorry, I probably sound...
No, not at all. No, I'm about to get processy by asking you if... Do you, in the case of playing someone like Adam then, as an actor, are you in the moment thinking things that you wouldn't think when you're playing Loki, like, for example... if I move my eyebrow this much, it's going to communicate this, because he's so sullen and solid and that we don't get a lot out of him, but yet we continue to want to watch you. What do you think is happening there?
I don't know. I mean, it certainly isn't. If I thought about muscles in my face, I would freeze.
You're not doing that when
no.
You're just in the character.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always about revelation, I think, and trusting that the camera can see what you're feeling. Because my experience is that the camera has an extraordinary truthfulness, and you can't lie in front of it. And if you do, like Terence Davis, the director, said to me once, the camera captures the truth, but it also captures falsity. So if you don't feel it, don't do it. So I suppose I just have to be there, be in the moment, be in Adam's truth, whatever that is. Whether that's, a wry smile because his girl has just told him about a star that exists in the sky and makes music, or the sadness of feeling lonely and on his own in Detroit. Or
such an interesting point, though. Sorry to cut you off. If we say, so when we say, for example, I don't believe that character in that film, what we're to a certain extent saying is that actor didn't believe that character.
Yeah, in a sense, or he's trying to project a truth that isn't real, you know. And there's been something in the transference. There's been a break in the connection. It's a very hard thing to sort of put your finger on.
Have you ever? You do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a role you've walked away from where you kind of went, I wasn't totally in that?
There've been moments in things for sure.
Tell me about your worst work. When were you really terrible?
I mean, it's every performance, I suppose, is a bit like it's like a house, you know. I can, and I know it inside and out because I put every brick on top of every brick, and so I can see the mistakes, I can see the joins in probably a way that nobody else can. I'm my harshest critic. You know, at the beginning of my career, I learnt. You learn by watching yourself, and you think, oh, I'm overdoing that there, or I've undercooked that, or I was actually distracted because I was telling a joke to the crew, and then I had to do the scene, and you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't tell jokes to the crew when I have to do those scenes. But yeah, it's an odd one. I guess I've just learned that the camera is, the camera never lies.
Are you a method actor? Do you have to wake up as low-key on the morning of a shoot? You know?
No.
Okay. You just don't tell the joke right before the scene shoot.
Yeah. I mean, no, I'm not a method actor. It's a strange one because acting, I think, requires the discipline to be able to step in and out of those truths, especially if they're quite extreme. I mean, if the character you're playing is going through a moment of emotional crisis or emotional heat, and usually in good drama, the characters are. That's what drama is. You know, as a movie lover myself, the cinema is founded on us watching people in extremis, and heroes do the right thing and villains do the wrong thing. And the actor's job is to step inside that extremity and be able to remove themselves from it without any fallout. And sometimes, you know, I've got to be honest, sometimes it does rub off. Sometimes if you have to do a very emotional scene or something, you can find yourself driving home from that day and think, wow, I've turned on a tap somewhere inside me, and I you know, the great stage actor in Paul Schofield, who was around at the time of Olivier and Gielgud and Richardson in England, used to say, the emotions are mine, but they're not real, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. And I've heard that said before, and it does make sense.
Yeah.
Although it's you know, doing that well is what makes someone good at their job, I guess. As an actor.
I suppose so. My acting teacher, I've never forgotten. I had an acting teacher when I was in my early 20s, and he said, acting is simple. Whatever you're doing, whether you're doing Shakespeare on stage or playing Loki or whatever it is being truthful in imaginary circumstances.
What about when you're working with someone very closely as another actor? This is a very intimate film, and you and Tilda Swinton are on screen together a lot, and on screen for most of the film, in fact. Yeah. Tell me about what that relationship was like while you were shooting.
It was so fun. It was so warm and open and friendly, and I feel we felt like sort of kindred spirits instantly. I don't know where that comes from. And always feel very lucky when that happens. When you meet someone and you feel that you know them and that they know you, and there's immediate trust there. I don't know what. I honestly couldn't tell you how or why.
Did you learn from her? Do you think she's a great actor?
I do. Yeah.
And what did you learn from watching her?
She's very in the moment. Everything she does is an expression of who she is. It comes from a very honest place. Her work. You know, she said to me once before we started, she said, I never wanted to be an actress, really. I wanted to be an artist, but I've tried my whole life not to be an actress. And that, except she's an incredibly precise one. And that informs how she is on set, because she has no vanity at all. She's very, very unself-conscious and very free. And so Eve is so full of Tilda's warmth and her curiosity and her spirit and her joy, and that was wonderful. You
said earlier that Jim Jarmusch wanted to make a film about art, music, culture, history,
and love.
And love.
Yeah.
And as vampires, Adam and Eve, the characters in this film that you and Tilda's play, have made the most of their immortality by consuming the richness of human culture over the centuries. But Adam's depression seems to come from his dismay with the present direction of human culture. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yes.
How do you think our appreciation for the miracles of art and science has changed through time? In other words, do you see Adam's point?
In the time, I did. I mean, the thing is, he's in that moment, he's probably seeing things. The glass is half empty for him, and I think he looks around at the world and sees a world at war. You know, he talks about how all his heroes were, you know, Pythagoras was ridiculed, Newton was pushed into secrecy and alchemy, Tesla's possibilities were ignored, people are still bitching about Darwin, you know, and there's one line where he justifies the purchase of a wooden bullet, which would be, you know, if to kill vampires you stick a wooden stake through their heart, and he gets a wooden bullet made, and Eve, Tilda's character, finds the gun under the bed and confronts him and says, why? And Adam says, it's the zombies, which is their word for the human race. It's the zombies I'm sick of, and their fear of their own imaginations. And I think Adam's just sort of he yearns for a time when people took more care over the beauty of the world.
But do you think? Well, that's what I was going to. Do you think Jim or this film or even you are part of what you're saying is that we don't have an appreciation for art the way we would have a century ago or 3 centuries ago?
I don't even know if it's art. I think it's I'm a glass half full person. I think we live in a great age. You know, we live in an age where
you're delusional.
You know, we're so incredibly connected in so many ways, and you know, we really have a handle on a great portion of the world has a handle on disease, and we're all healthy, and I think there is a part of Adam, I suppose, and a part of me that you worry that we're missing things because everything is so disposable
and accelerated.
Yeah, and accelerated, and nothing, and therefore there's no appreciation of the finer things, of something as beautiful as a guitar, like one guitar, you know, or you know, Adam's fascination with the beauty of science and maths. And
in my day, we would listen to the entire Duran Duran album from beginning to
That's
end.
it. That's what
now the kids will just.
That's what he's saying. You know, so Mia's character arrives to Eve's sister, Tilda's sister, and she says, "I love your new music, Adam. Can I get a download?" And that's an insult to him because it's like picking something to Adam. It's like picking something off the shelf and then discarding it, and then. You know, so that's someone's work. That's someone's put love and attention into that piece of music, and you're like, can I just download it and chuck it away?
I'm speaking with Tom Hiddleston, one of the stars of the new film, Only Lovers Left Alive by Jian Ghomeshi. I've just got a couple more questions for you, Tom. The other thing about your character, Adam, is there's a tension around his relationship with his own fame. He's not comfortable with it. At one point in the film, Adam, towards the end, sees a singer performing and remarks that she's too good for fame. It's interesting. Too good for fame.
Yeah.
You've had some exposure to fame yourself in recent years. Do you think fame has a way of corrupting artistic expression?
That is a huge question. I think one has to be careful with it because it can probably pollute the well in some ways. Is if you listen to the good stuff too much, well, you lose your sense of it stops you searching, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I really like I can't be objective about my levels of fame, but I think on one level it can give you confidence to keep going because it's nice to know that people appreciate what you're giving out there. I've certainly had that when I first started making films. The fact that people enjoyed them and responded to them was a huge boost. Yeah, you think, okay, I'm going in the right direction. But I caution against it coloring my perception of myself and what I have to give, what I have left to give.
Have you ever felt it doing so?
No. I mean, I think there's a huge difference there's 2 types of fame in my mind. There is the very honest and ancient engagement of an artist and an audience. And I couldn't call myself an actor if if there was no audience to come and watch me. And I admire and respect that a very sacred relationship between any artist and the people. You know, if you've painted a painting, or you've written a piece of music or a book, or you've come up with a performance, and you say, here, I have something to show you, and I would love for you to come and see it, because it's about us, it's about humanity, it's about life. And then there's another type of thing which is sort of which is empty and dangerous, which is just fame. You know, it's not grounded in anything. That's what I think about it. There's a wonderful poem about fame by an English poet called Charlotte Mew in the 1920s, and she says, "What if I went back and it was not there? Back to the old known things that are the new, the folded glory of the gorse, the sweet briar air, to the larks that cannot praise us, knowing nothing of what we do, and the divine, wise trees that do not care." And I find that very comforting.
Do you have besides that poem? This year is going to be another year of growth for you, I would imagine, in terms of your rising star, with this film, with another Thor film where you're back as Loki. Do you have a way of making sure that Tom Hiddleston keeps it real?
My family are very good at that. I don't know. I feel like I feel lucky that I sort of know myself, you know, and you know, I'm so grateful for people's appreciation and enthusiasm. But I know who I am, and I know that I'm in my own mind. I feel like I'm just beginning. I guess I still live in London. I still live in the same area I've always lived. I still have the same friends, so that doesn't change. Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I'll let you know, or maybe you can let me know when it starts to get out of hand.
I most certainly will. Tom Hiddleston caught in strip club with face in cocaine. Before I let you go, you'll be reprising your role as the god Loki for a third time in the upcoming sequel, Thor: The Dark World, this time. I mean, this guy has become such a popular character around superhero fans. I watch you at Comic-Con, and you know, that's your rock star. You're in that moment. What is it that you enjoy so much about playing a character like that?
I think, you know, I never dreamed I would be allowed to play a character like that. You know, I've had a very pleasant, gentle English life, and I have blonde, curly hair, and I'm stepping into these boots of the Norse god of mischief, who is one of the great supervillains in the Marvel universe. He's a photo negative of who I am. You know, he's a character on such a big scale. I grew up watching superhero films, and I always loved the bad guys. There's just, you know, it's the fact that he's the god of mischief. And mischief is, in the English dictionary, if you look it up, it says something like an innate playfulness designed to tease and unsettle. And there's something about, you know, that inhabiting that shape. Also, his complexity as a character. You know, he's got his own particularly damaged psychology, which is interesting. And
it must be gratifying to play a guy who's not necessarily the good guy and become very popular for doing so. That's a win, right?
Yeah. It is. It's a really amazing thing, actually. It's important to say that, because I think it doesn't happen often. And what's happened with Loki has surpassed my wildest dreams and expectations when I started to play him. You know, I knew when I was cast that I had an amazing opportunity. And you know, it's a big character in a big film, or a set of big films, and the sky's the limit. And it was really just up to me how much I put into it, how much I committed to it, how much I worked on it. And I really did work on it, and I still do. You know, I work on the character, I work on his dimension, and I try to bring new things to him every time, and keep him interesting, and keep him, I suppose it sounds crazy to say it, but keep him human. You know, keep his motivations real and human and relatable. Because I think that's what grounds these big comic book movies and makes them interesting, is the visual effects are beautiful and the action sequences are spectacular, but what keeps me there when I'm watching other people do it is when the actors are infusing their characterizations with real emotion, and you can see some kind of relatable human instinct that's underneath it. And with Loki, it's a relationship with his brother. It's a very damaged relationship with his adopted father, his mother, all of that stuff. It's family dynamics writ large in this grand space epic. It's pretty cool.
Tom, it's a great pleasure to get to talk to you and your eloquent and thoughtful responses. I thank you for this. And I look forward to you coming back and talking about how you've lost yourself in stardom.
I hope not.
The fall of...
the fall from grace. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for this, and congrats on the Jian Ghomeshi film. Fantastic.
Thanks very much.
This is actor Tom Hiddleston, Only Lovers Left Alive, is scheduled to hit North American theaters sometime next year. This is the Jim Jarmusch film that he stars in with Tilda Swinton and others. Before that, you can catch Tom once again reprising the role of Loki in Thor: The Dark World. That's opening November 8th. Tom Hiddleston has been with me here live in Studio Q.